Johnny, tell the people about how good Kyler Murray was last year, because I still feel like some people aren't really realizing it.
Right here.
Now we're going to talk about Johnny's heartthrob.
I should have worn my jersey today. I thought about it.
Yeah, dude, I didn't know why you wouldn't. So, but Johnny and the rest of the Red Sea out there in Phoenix are just infatuated with their guy, Kyler Murray. And why not? Dude won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. The guy is a complete stud. Not very tall, but it didn't matter. Because, Johnny, tell the people about how good Kyler Murray was last year, because I still feel like some people aren't really realizing it.
No, this is what's so great too, and this was like a perfect segue, and it was on complete accident. They did bolster up that offensive line. Their offensive line is a lot better than most people give them credit for. Pro Football Focus is starting to put out those numbers, and Arizona is higher than a lot of people think that their offensive line would be ranked. They also got a major steal in the draft, an offensive lineman that should have went in the first round, fell all the way to the third round. So should give Kyler Murray a little bit more pass protection. But here's very, very interesting, right? So Kyler Murray, we all know what he did last year and how he finished. He was a fantasy quarterback 7. He had on average, if you took on his points per game average, he had 17.5 points per game on a week to week. Here's where things are going to improve and why Kyler Murray is going to be such a fascinating quarterback this year. You look at his supporting cast efficiency, negative 1.9. They were so bad. They couldn't catch balls. They bring in DeAndre Hopkins, bring in the second best non-quarterback impact player that you can go out and get in the NFL, and that was DeAndre Hopkins. Bring him in. Kyler Murray, 93 carries for 544 rushing yards. I watched a lot of tape and a lot of interviews with Cliff Kingsbury, and he talked about there was a big part of Kyler Murray's game where he was a little nervous to break off runs. He could do it in the play action, but he wasn't always reading whether or not he should hand off the ball or keep it. And Cliff Kingsbury said there will be a lot more options in the second year for Kyler to do that, and he should have enough confidence now to pull it and run. So he should get a lot more rushing yards this year. I love Kyler Murray coming in. I've already said it once. I'll repeat it here on the show because if you haven't followed us on Twitter at TF Whispers, you might have missed this, but I put it out. Kyler Murray will be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year in fantasy. Put it in your books. Write it next to your notes.
I mean, look, I have little I can say to argue that take.
So don't
and
even try.
And the reason I won't. The reason is because Kyler Murray has everything you want. He's got elite accuracy. He's got throw on the run capability. He's got the running capability. He's playing in an offense that is now stacked. They did need help on the offensive line, and we will need to see if that line can gel. That's a huge point. But I would imagine when they got a first-round talent at the lineman position in the second round, they're feeling pretty good about what that can bring to the table. And we've seen where one lineman can change an entire line. So I think that there is hope in Arizona that this can get to the next level. And this team throws a ton, Johnny. Like, that is the Cliff Kingsbury way. Mm-hmm. They throw to their running backs. They throw to their wide receivers. And what better for Kyler Murray than to bring DeAndre Hopkins over and watch this offense, who drafted 4 or 5 wide receivers last year, who not all got on the field because of just injuries and other things.
Let's remember Hakeem Butler, who is a
Andy Isabella.
Like, there are playmakers.
Yeah, so I just think that the offense is stacked. Murray's stacked as far as talents wise. You've got a guy that's in Kingsbury that's like, throw the defense out the window. I don't care. Let's throw the ball. This is all marrying up for a perfect situation in fantasy football. So yeah, I think similar to what Johnny said, especially if the ADP, like right now, he's in the 5th round. It's bonkers to me. I think that eventually raises because you look at like Fantasy Pros and ESPN's rankings, and they've got Murray right behind the big 2 in a lot of ways. So I think that's the thing to remember here. If you can get him in those middle rounds, you need to snatch him up. You may have to go around early on Kyler Murray, and it's okay because Kyler Murray is probably this year's Lamar Jackson, last year's Patrick Mahomes, and et cetera.
There's no
so, like,
probably
I think,
about it. It's going to happen.
I mean, he's definitely the guy that's set up to do it.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.